Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to the castle. So, I haven't built here before, at least on the channel anyway. It's been probably a couple of years since I've actually built here at all. So, as you can imagine, I've seen a few builds other people have done. I've got the plan here is to do something a little different. But, as I'm sure you're aware, I tend to do things fairly lore-friendly these days. So, that kind of locks us into doing a Minuteman HQ type build. So we're going to start off with the walls today. And beyond that, I'm not entirely sure where I'm going to go with this. So if you guys have any suggestions, I'd be very, very interested in hearing them. Do drop me a comment, let me know. So this will probably be the last big project before Fallout 76 drops. So that's only about a month away now, at least till the beta anyway. I'm not planning on abandoning Fallout 4 altogether, but there will likely be a fairly significant shift in the direction of Fallout 76, so this seemed like a suitable closing project. That being said, of course, if Fallout 76 does turn out to be awful, which is unlikely, but still, then we'll be back here, I imagine. So, as you can see, we are repairing this western wall first. So we can do two sort of different things with this. Over here we're going to use the retextured castle stone pieces added by USO. They're basically wooden shack foundations, but retextured, so. First thing to note when you're doing this is to keep an eye firstly on the lines you're working with, because I ended up with the end of this sort of clipping through the wall and had to redo it. So it's worth checking that out fairly early on. And the other thing is when you get to this point, check the height. This first time around I actually got very lucky and it turned out to be exactly the right height anyway. But when I came back to redo it, it wasn't the right height, so that was considerably more inconvenient. So it's something to bear in mind first off. Everything's just snapped together okay so far. This upper level though, the foundations seem to want to sink into each other. So you have to be a bit careful about positioning them one on top of the other so that the textures don't look too much like the clipping, look like they're built together rather than just shoved together, for want of a better way of putting it. The other thing here is this upper level rather, is not lining up properly with the edge of the lower level. So we have to make a few adjustments. I do apologise by the way for radio freedom. I had a bit of a slow moment, shall we say. It took me a while to figure out how to get it to shut up. The solution obviously being to cut the power, but it took me a ridiculously long time to figure that out. Oh well, we'll get there in a minute. So, over towards this end, we have a slight issue. And there we go. The foundations clip far too deep into the ground and come straight through the roof. Which, if you could get enough in, might not be too much of a problem. But you can't, so it is. So we're going to go over to floor pieces here, which match up quite nicely. It does create a small problem. However, with those in place, we can now group select this in. So obviously I could have used place anywhere, although from down here it would have been kind of a nightmare. But as the concrete pillar will sink into the wall just fine, we'll do it this way. Another useful point to remember, sometimes the pieces don't want to snap into place properly, which we saw a little bit earlier when I was putting some of those foundations in. It does help to position yourself below the level of the piece you're trying to place, or below where the top of it will be, so you're looking up at it. There we go, this makes life a lot easier standing on a platform. But yeah, if you're looking at things from below, sometimes they're a bit more willing to snap, so useful tip to bear in mind. So we'll just get this nice and lined up. Unfortunately, the size of the bricks on the wall pieces aren't quite the same as on the foundations. But there we go. It's not immediately noticeable. As we can see, we've got a bit of clipping through here coming from the walls, if nothing else. However, much easier to hide that. Especially as it connects all the way through. So, two of them snap together. Just group select in. Much easier than trying to do them one at a time, I might add. And there we go.
You're tuned to Radio Freedom, voice of the Minutemen. Nothing to report.
Yeah, that's dreaded annoying, that radio. I will switch it off in a moment. When I actually came to do this a second time, get the lines right on it. There we go. I found that I didn't actually need to do that, but it's a useful thing to know about, or as an option if the positioning you happen to go for, assuming you want to do this of course, is not entirely lined up properly, so it's a good way of hiding the slight error there. So, coming around to this side, it's much easier, not least of all because it's considerably smaller. It's only one set high. So just going to line these up with the outer wall. Here we go. Drop this next one in, and then we'll need to check whether or not it's clipping through on this side, which it is. So, pull that back out, nudge it over a little bit. So unfortunately, none of these pieces actually that we're going to use today are quite the same width as the walls. They're slightly odd sizes actually, the castle walls, but we manage. There we go, lined up. Now we need to join the two halves of the wall together, which obviously isn't going to look quite like this, but as you can see from that little test, this section is a little too high. The idea being that they meet as close as possible to the same height, but obviously they will come at an angle, so I'm going to make it look like it's deliberately cut off rather than clipping. Getting closer there, the right way around. There we go. So that's about the right height. What I've got in mind here is actually to have them this way round, just toying with which way I want the pattern to sit at the moment. The idea here is that you can see the original wall that we started off on. Looks like the blocks have been cut to fit up against the second wall we're working on, which actually is more effective when they're facing along it, like that, rather than the other way. So, that's what I had in mind. And we'll plug the gap. So this corner is a little bit of an issue. I did play with it for a bit, but I didn't quite decide exactly what I want to do there, so I'll come back to that. For now, a couple more little gaps that we couldn't snap together. Did have to turn the scrap that settlement mod off for that. There we go, sorted. Just head around the other side because we've got one on the outside as well. This wasn't actually a problem the first time around, but with my adjustment, I had to come back and plug this particular gap. There we go, results. So, the other bit of the wall, which I'm not going to seal up, I'm going to build two of these that we've just seen. So the idea was sort of like you sometimes see in old mines in movies and the like, got wooden scaffolding stopping everything falling down and so you can climb up the surface. So I'm going to use these bridges to create that kind of an effect. It took me quite a long time to do the first one over there, which is why we're taking a look at the building of the second one, because I actually knew what I was doing by this time. So, two bridges snapped together, group select in. As I was saying before, a little bit too wide, but we manage okay. Sort of immediately obvious when we're done. So this is just a shack bridge without legs. I'll just get that lined up so we've got a nice little bit sticking out to attach the staircase to. See, it's just about the right width, and it won't rather clip through the rubble there. Grab ourselves a concrete post and just manoeuvre that in. I actually noticed one amusing thing while I was running around the castle. It's obviously put together by Bethesda in sections, because if you happen to look at it in just the right places, particularly if you've removed some of the shrubs, you can actually see a seam between some of the pieces. Which, I don't know, it tickled me a little bit. Okay, so, staircase in. Now drop the second level in there. I wanted it to be sort of clearly scaffolded all the way up, or at least appear to be scaffolded all the way up. So that's why we're putting this entire second row in. Plus we don't have sort of half-size, quarter-size pieces either. There we go. Eyeball that carefully. I don't want it... I want a little bit of room on the side there, but don't want it sticking out too far. And we'll drop this next one in. Now through the middle of this wall, there's actually a kind of natural walkway, which I imagine is a result of the fact that any provisioners you send to the castle will actually move in and out of this broken wall rather than the gate at the other end. So I wanted to keep that sort of walkway clear, which is why we're keeping it over to the side. Now these posts are added by toys out of the params, pillars and supports. On the other side, I actually had to group select them into place. On this one, they went in just fine on their own. And actually, I couldn't even group select them when I tried, so it worked out all okay, so something to bear in mind. There we go. Just get this last set of stairs in. The idea was that when the stairs reach the ground, they're on the inside rather than the outside. It was one of the ideas I had in my head from the start of this. Obviously, it is intended to be a defensible position, so we don't want people who are attacking just running straight up the staircase. So a few railings. Normally I'd mix and match these, but for this particular one I've gone with the same one just 'cause it keeps the mine, scaffolding, quarry, take your pick really, vibe of the thing a little more than using the other style of railings does. One unfortunately won't play ball. They're not actually snapping, but they will just sit straight on the ground, these ones. So, and this piece being the exception here, because unfortunately the standard one wouldn't go in there. So now we'll just tidy off this top area. Make sure everything's reasonably neatly connected to the earth on the top here. There we are. All good. So, one last thing to add to this. We need a little bit more of a defensive emplacement. So I've put this one on the outside. I'm still debating whether or not to put something similar on the inside as well. Sort of second line, but we'll see how I feel. I don't think it looks quite complete, but then again, we're only just starting, so it is what it is. So this is a yeah, try that again, shall we? Dead simple bespoke. Oh my. Guard post. So we're just going to put a couple of floors in. You can ignore the corner pieces there. I'm going to take them out and put back in a minute. Just check that's the right height. Looks a little low, but actually it's convenient for firing over, so that's fine. This first one didn't actually need too much help to go in. Just nudge it up to the front. There we go. A little bit of adjustment needed on the side. Okay. So grab the next one. Just line this up with it. It's going to be a little bit of a gap there, but that's okay. It's just supposed to look suitably ramshackle. Sort of permanent, but also kind of not exactly built by a carpenter. So the two side ones are a little bit more awkward, so we'll drop those on a rug and grab the pillar. Wants to play ball, there we go. And this is where I took the sort of angled floors that I originally put in there off, just because getting the angles right on the walls was a little difficult. So just get that lined up the way I want it, and on to the next one. It's getting a little dark here. We'll brighten things up in just a moment. There we go. Line this one up again. And the reason I've left such big gaps around the side, as I said before, is because this is where the provisions tend to come in and out. So I wanted reasonably easy access around it, whilst being defended at the same time. So, just group select these shack floors into place. There we go, make it look like it's attached to the wall, which is an added bonus. This one didn't go quite so well, because it's a little tighter of an angle, but job's a good one. Get the ladders in. A couple of boards so nobody's falling through the holes. There we go. So I'll probably put a couple of invisible guard mats on the top here, just when we get sort of towards the end of the build. Just so we've got the position manned. Now just a couple of little bits to provide a bit more support. A couple of shack half walls. No need for anything fancy with these, and nice cooperative, just a bit of group select. 1. And number 2. And I've gone for the same one because it just matches up with the junk fences a little more. There we go. Come on, you temperamental sod. There we go. This is a USO added junk fence. Just pick this one because it's got a nice flat top on it, so we can just drop it underneath the floor pieces there. It provides a bit of support. So there's a couple of little points where this is floating around here at the front, so once we stop grabbing some invisible grass, which I assume is a mod freaking out, we'll group select this underneath. Just use an extra tyre to provide a bit of support there. There we go. Use a cinder block wall just to support the end of this one. Still no rug glitch needed, which is great. There we go. Oh, wait, one more. Made a slight error with this one that I'll have to tweak, but not a major problem. We get the idea. There we go. So, let's take a look around. They're nice and open and still reasonably approachable, but at the same time defended. There we go. Might put something around the side, I'm not sure. I'm also toying with the idea of putting some docks out here somewhere, so we may need access to those, so that's why that big gap's there. Decent sight lines down towards the city, which is what we need. And there's our scaffolds. So a lot of people do really big solid fortifications for a gate here, which is fine, but I wanted to do something a little different. This seemed a little bit more, I don't know about more believable, but kind of more believable. You know what I mean. So, around to the side that we've repaired with stone. I guess there's a limited amount available to them. And we'll take a look up top. There we go. Nice view from out here. Again, you can fire down on anybody approaching if you need to. And this still needs a little bit of work, a little bit of tidying up, but we'll figure something out for that. A quick look across the other side. In fact, probably could have come across a little bit further, made the gap a little smaller without it being a problem, but I don't know, I like this. Here we go. Not really intended as a guard post, these, but if the need arises, it'll serve the purpose just fine. There we go. Nice clear courtyard, ready for whatever we eventually decide to build down there. As I say, if you guys have got any suggestions, do drop me a comment, let me know. I'll certainly consider them. Have a quick swing around the outside, and that should bring us to a conclusion. So thank you very much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, hit buttons for me and all that good stuff. Social media links down in the description as always. Do come check me out on Twitter, etc. And come and check me out on Twitch as well. And for now, thank you very much. I'll be speaking to you all very, very soon.